What's up everyone, John from ARTV. It's time for a review of the third studio album by surf pop and indie pop duo Best Coast. This one's titled California Nights. Best Coast have been making waves since the late 2000s, splashing onto the scene with 2010's Crazy For You, a record that I thought was kind of sweet and irresistible, kind of relatable in some ways, I suppose, but I assumed that as I grew up, maybe the band would a little bit too. We got to 2012's The Only Place, and the band definitely channeled their 70s vibes there. I have to say I was a little bit let down with that record, but there were some really good songs on there, like Why I Cry, the title track, and then we get to 2013, we get Fade Away, a little mini album that shows the most promise for this band yet. I know a lot of people get frustrated with their sound and that sort of thing, and I think that they do have trouble in some areas, lyrical content being a very prominent issue for me, but with Fade Away in 2013, I thought that this band were onto something. They were moving forward with their sound. The guitar playing is becoming more skillful, and that's not only seen on Fade Away, but of course here on this new record, California Nights as well. I never reviewed Fade Away or The Only Place for some reason, but I definitely wanted to give you a quick snapshot on how I was feeling about that, and then we transition into this new phase, California Nights, their first major label album on Harvest Records. I have to say, after hearing the title track California Nights, I was very excited for this record. I love the vibe that that song gives. It's very atmospheric, just gives you a feeling, maybe a mental image of just like sitting out under the stars, looking up in kind of amazement, and that's a cool feeling. There's that very familiar reverb placed on Bethany's voice, and that's found not only on this track, all throughout the record. Some skillful guitar playing, of course Bob Bruno, I feel like stepped up big time on this entire album, California Nights. The solo on the title track is really far out there, just sends this one over the moon for me. Easily one of my favorite songs of 2015 so far. Bruno's guitar playing gets a little bit more aggressive here on this record. It backs this thing in a very solid way. The drumming is full circle as well. I know they have some session drummers, I believe, that come in since they are only a duo. I like the fact that he's getting a little bit more intricate with his guitar playing, and we see that on standout moments like Jealousy and Not Okay, which kicks off the record. I think that I'm enjoying that track so much, not only because Cosentino's voice on that one is very powerful, and at the same time it feels fresh, something maybe they haven't dove into before, and that's what I liked about the title track as well. But Bruno's guitar playing on that one, it's just adding a little bit of extra layer there. There's not only your solid guitar line flowing all throughout, there's some extra parts that are in there. Give it a little bit of extra flair, round this thing out nicely. Gotta get some complaints off my chest though. I was really hoping that Bethany's lyrical content would step up here on this one. She's getting older, so are a lot of the listeners, I'm sure, and I'm just not that into hearing the same old songs about relationships and trouble with anxiety and that sort of thing. I understand that it's a very real thing, and I think that Bethany has a likable enough personality. In fact, she's one of my favorite people to follow on Twitter just because of her commentary on things. But the sad fact is, this album is a little bit more than 140 characters, and I don't know that she has enough things to say to really carry out an entire record. Sure, there are signs of maturity on some of these tracks, like she's growing up, moving forward, but you can even tell by the titles of some of these cuts that maybe she's stuck on some similar topics. Fine Without You, Jealousy being a couple of those. Fine Without You is one of those tracks that just kind of lost its charm with repeated listens, and I have to say that that's the case with parts of this album. The more I played it, the more it kind of faded away for me. Yeah? See what I did there? It's tough because I really like the vibe that this album is going for. Musically, it is on point. Bruno is doing a great job with his guitar work. And Bethany's voice even sounds really good here. It sounds confident a lot of the time. The reverb is definitely still there on the majority of these tracks, I feel like, but it's not as prevalent as it was on like maybe something like When I'm With You on Crazy For You. Obviously, they've kind of stepped away from that lo-fi sound into more of a full band type scenario that just kind of not necessarily tossed that style production out the window, but it's been a natural progression. So I'm liking what I'm hearing there. The problem is that I can't really dive in and connect with too many of these tracks just because of the lyrical content. The middle of this record definitely hits a rut for me, with tracks like So Unaware and When Will I Change feeling so similar, like they bleed into each other. I can't even tell almost whenever I'm listening to a new track. It's like if I get a little bit distracted and don't hear the closing to So Unaware, I don't even realize that a new track has started, and that's kind of an issue for me. Near the end of the record, things get a little bit dreary. I like the ideas presented on Run Through My Head, but it just kind of drudges on throughout its 4-minute run, and then we get to Sleep Won't Ever Come, and it feels like a little bit more of an injection of life just because it was different. It's not that it's an upbeat track by any means, it's just that it feels a little bit more distant, and I'm liking that they tried a different sound there. So that's one that kind of mixes things up, but then we go out on kind of a flat note with Wasted Time, a message that we've heard so many times. It's just like, you know, I've wasted my time and I just wish I had something to show for it, and she almost seems uninterested in the vocal performance here on this one. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, let's focus on some of the positive moments here on this record. In My Eyes is one that has a vibrant feel about it. I like the guitar playing here a whole lot. It's something that's very fun and kind of bouncy and almost upbeat. The chorus on this thing is really likable and of course memorable as well. It's something that gets stuck in my head throughout the day, along with the guitar chords on this one. You're gonna like this album a lot, I feel like, if you like the 90s and Best Coast, because that's what so many of these songs feel like. They just blended the two things, they threw them together, spun it around for a while, and then out came California Nights. Best Coast have tackled the 60s, the 70s, and now of course they're on to the 90s, and Heaven Sent, one of the singles, I believe the second single from this record, is one of those tracks that just practically bleeds that style. The guitar tone on this track definitely feels like something out of the mid-90s. I can't exactly put a finger on exactly what band it reminds me of, but it's out there. Just maybe let me know in the comments section what you're hearing in comparison. I'd say the instrumental on this one's pretty effective. I like the guitars that kind of kick it off, and then the drums, and then more guitars kind of kick in and really jumpstart the life in the track. Jealousy is a track that, yeah, maybe it has a pretty predictable chorus, and I did complain about that a little bit, but at the same time I can't help but really get into this song. It's got an intricate side to it as well, and I think Bruno's guitar playing is the thing that really stands out to me on the cut. This is a complicated listen for me just because there are a lot of likable aspects about this record, about this group, but at the same time I don't feel like they're progressing as much as they should be. Now, of course, I don't come to a Best Coast record looking for social commentary or these really deep lyrics or anything like that, but at the same time, I feel like I shouldn't have to listen to a retread, something I've already heard on some of their past albums. Check out the description if you'd like to see my favorite and least favorite tracks, more information about the record. For me, this new album, California Nights by duo Best Coast, is a 3.5. Unfortunately, this is one of those records that the more I dug into it, the more problems I found with it, unfortunately. So let me know what you thought about it. Is this Best Coast's best work to date, or is it their most stale work to date? I think there's gonna be a mixed reaction on it personally. So hit the like button while you're down there, leaving a comment, maybe subscribe to the channel because friends don't let friends go unsubscribed. Thanks for sticking with me during this busy time. The next month or so is gonna be very busy for me just because I'm gonna be moving again, and I hope to be back on track with a lot of more reviews in June. So thanks for watching, and I will see you very soon right here on ARTV.